Welcome to Updated Autopsy Report, a podcast from Yotsuben and Friends where we read and watch the inspirations behind Ace Attorney. I'm your host, Ben, and with me today is Dessy.
Hello.
And two good friends of ours, Tiago.
Yo.
And Rose.
Hi.
We're all longtime fans of Ace Attorney. We hope that through our perspectives, it'll reveal new details and provide interesting commentary for all the media we discuss. Our intro music is by Lace, and you can find all her other work at leiss.bandcamp.com. Today, we're discussing Edogawa Ranpo's The Murder on D Hill and The Psychological Test. These are both two short stories by Edogawa Ranpo, and I'm going to ask a question that I think I already know the answer to.
Okay.
But does anyone here have any prior experience or history with any of Edogawa Ranpo's work?
Absolutely none.
Well,
I'll let Rose go first.
Not in particular. I know that. Well, I don't know that, but I've heard, because I don't know anything. I've heard that the Persona 5 character, Akachi, the detective, is named after one of the characters in this story.
Akachi?
Oh my god.
And that's literally, fuck
Deep
all
step.
that. I've not played Persona 5. I want that on record. I've not played. I think it's cool. I haven't played. I've only played 4. But I do know that one thing about it, which is that guy is named after the other guy.
Kogoro Akechi is his famous detective that he created, who, yes, has been in a lot of popular culture, and has faced off against a lot of other characters. He's appeared in, both knockoff stories, like where he's up against Lupin. He has gotten, kind of riffed on in things like Persona. Probably the most famous one.
I mentioned Persona 5, and Val literally opened the door and came into the room and was like, "You talking about Persona 5?" I was like, "Shh."
Your roommate, yeah.
Yeah. Big Persona enjoyer. 10 out of 10.
Probably the biggest Akechi riff is Gosho Oyama's Detective Conan / Case Closed, which directly riffs off of Akechi. There's so many things that are like downstream of this, and I am like only very, I'm somewhat familiar with Case Closed and Detective Conan, but not like, hugely. I've not read a ton of it.
I used to watch it with my sister when I was younger.
I think my library had a couple. My library didn't. The original one before they tore it down and built the new one didn't have a lot of manga, but there was some Detective Conan books. Yeah.
So his name is Conan Edogawa in the manga, right? So obviously Conan Doyle and Edogawa Ranpo is what they're riffing
so
off
clever.
there. So so that all is kind of coming downstream from Edogawa Ranpo. Edogawa Ranpo is coming downstream from Edgar Allan Poe, who to be clear,
I'm a fan.
We are saying Edogawa Ranpo. His actual name was Taro Hirai, and this was his pen name. If you transliterate Edgar Allan Poe into Japanese, perhaps it starts to sound a bit like Edogawa Ranpo, Edgar Allan Poe.
You know what? Good for him.
So this is where it comes from, because he also attempted to translate a lot of works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle when he was a student in university, and he read a lot of Japanese mystery work. So this is all again, I'm not a huge expert into Ranpo, but this is kind of where he's coming from, right? He's reading these translated works, he's attempting to translate them himself, and goes, damn, I like mysteries. He also is very much into, we did not touch on a lot of his other works this time. We've just started with these two short stories. He's also big into thriller and kind of what's the way I want to put this? Like crime stories that really deal with like seedy, kind of racy, things, right? We do get a tinge of that at the very end of the first story, the case of the murder on D Hill, right?
Yeah, this is the kind of shit I could pick up at the gas station. That's what I'm
exactly.
Hearing.
Yep.
Which is not a bad thing.
With your dick growth pills.
Yeah.
They're
and the kind of drugs that you can't get anywhere else.
Right.
There was even the term eroguro nonsensu would also come up a lot during this time period. In that was literally eroticism, grotesquerie, and the nonsensical is what that term is literally transliterating. He would bring up a lot of things that are like abnormal sexuality is the way that they would phrase it, right?
Kink.
Yes, and also just sometimes homosexuality, right?
Whoa,
truly shocking things for 1930s.
Absolutely
Japan.
stunning, yeah.
Right. So,
good for you, man.
So yeah, he the character of his detective Kogoro Akechi. We read his first story, which was the murder on D Hill. This is the first place he appears. There eventually becomes many, many stories and books that he shows up in. And he also has I had it right in front of me. Where are my notes? The Boys Detective Club that then kind of springs out of this as well from a. We'll get to this eventually, but there's basically way more like lore and other characters that keep showing up in Akechi's stories, right? So I'm sure we'll get there at some point, but for now we're very much in the early realm of this detective. Our first one is the murder on D Hill. This is told from the perspective of, I don't think they actually, I'm pulling back my notes here. I don't think they actually say this character's name. It's just from his perspective as he meets Akechi for the first time.
Yeah, it's just like me.
Yeah,
it's just told from the first person perspective, and so he basically is like, well, listen, I was kind of I was an ill-mannered man, and I had entered the cafe. Once I had entered the cafe, it was my custom to remain until I had overstayed my welcome. And as I have never had much of an appetite and generally had very little in my purse, I would spend 1 or 2 motionless hours there without ordering even a single plate of food, and instead drinking 2 or 3 cups of cheap coffee.
God,
Still, I don't
know what a pioneer he was.
Still, I don't mean to say that I ever took a particular fancy to any of the waitresses or made to harass them. Well, it was gayer and more comfortable than my room in the boarding house.
Uh-huh.
So he's lounging about, being lazy at this coffee shop, and then eventually his buddy Akechi Kogoro shows up, who he says is quite eccentric, and they take to sitting there and watching this shop across the way, this used bookstore, and they think that they're like, hey, there's he mentions like that offhand, they both love detective fiction, right? And they love reading stories, and of course this is Ron Poe's chance to like talk reference a whole bunch of his favorite stories as well. And so they sit there and they're waiting and watching, and they're like, nobody's come out of there for a while. Is everything okay? And they go in there and find the wife of the guy who owns this used bookshop murdered inside there. And then they, of course, alert the police. The police come by and investigate. We get some very a lot of editorializing from the narrator about how the detective, or not the detective, the prosecutor, right, who comes in here and investigates how he's not very smart. He takes an entire electrical outlet out of the wall back as evidence, and this is like implied to be very silly.
I thought that sounded extremely reasonable, if I'm honest, but
Yeah.
That's why he's in charge.
Yeah.
And so then,
What do I
yes, the cops can't figure out how this murder happened. They like narrow down all the different like exits or the way that anybody could have come through, and they're like, well, we were watching from the front of the street the whole time as we sat in the coffee shop. They meet the next person next door in the next door shop who says, I didn't see anybody come through, and then the person who were in the back alley, it's like, well, I didn't see anybody come through the back alley. So they're like, well, where could this person have gone? Kind of thing. And then of course the case goes cold for a bit, and our narrator eventually thinks about it for a while, and he keeps thinking about it, and then he goes to Akechi's house.
Are you going into the reasoning?
Sure. Yeah. Why did you have a thought earlier here?
Yeah.
What's up?
I think the thing that I like the most about this particular, like, the event unfolding is that it reminded me a lot of Game 2, Case, I believe 2, where it is Maya going through the spirit channeling training, and, like, the murder happens while you're at the location. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was the vibe that I got from it. I'm, like, obviously, because we're doing this in an Ace Attorney podcast, a lot of it is just like, wow, this made me think of that one thing in Ace Attorney. Or, wow, this guy sure gives me Ace Attorney vibes. Or, guy who's only ever played Ace Attorney.
It's this thing that we know.
Look, it's this thing that we know. So, like, it's very, I think, neat to find all the little things I enjoy.
Yeah. We're going to boss baby our way through this a little bit at times.
Can we not say that?
I'm the Mr. Baby here.
But the goal of this is to unboss baby ourselves, right?
Oh, yeah, fair play.
Reverse boss baby?
Yeah.
I have no fucking idea what you're trying to convey with that statement.
Like Sherlock Holmes says, instead of we must have the result and work backwards, the result is Ace Attorney. Now we must work backwards.
Exactly. A turnabout, perhaps?
A turnabout.
What does that have to do with Boss Baby?
I just earned Teacher's Pet Award.
Do we need to explain the Boss Baby tweet?
We gotta explain the Boss Baby, and then we can do the one about bread.
Okay. Okay.
Well, you pull up the bread tweet. I'll explain the Boss Baby tweet. So there's a tweet by legendary Twitter user Afraid of Wasps, who said, "Guy who has only seen the Boss Baby, now watching his second movie. Getting a lot of Boss Baby vibes from this."
Okay.
So that's the whole tweet. Okay. And of course, this is now expanded in the way that, like, if you have a limited cultural knowledge, right? Like, you've only seen, say, Star Wars, but you haven't seen, The Hidden Fortress or any of the Kurosawa films that pulls from.
Oh my god, please watch Hidden Fortress. You got every day we turn closer to me and Ben turning this into a Star Wars podcast.
And so all it's saying is, like, yes, if you're, you will accidentally assign more importance in the original idea or the concept of this cultural idea. Star Wars this is what Star Wars started this. It's like, well, no, actually it came from Kurosawa, and Kurosawa was pulling from all these other filmmakers first, and it's following the trail back, right?
Could we just use that instead of Boss Baby? I don't really like Boss Baby. Boss Baby doesn't taste good on my palate. I don't like that.
All right, here's another option for you, which is guy who has only seen Les Mis and Aladdin watching a third movie. When does he steal the bread? And that's from Twitter user. Let's see what it says here. LemmyAdam_. I'm so glad that we're just reading tweets on the podcast now.
I really did not expect
unrelated
a fucking dissertation on the Boss Baby tweet today, but I guess it's my fault for
this. You know what? We ended up making it into a media
I thought I had to have
podcast.
Boss Baby background knowledge, and my first instinct was, when did you guys watch Boss Baby?
I've never seen the movie.
I've never watched Boss Baby.
Yeah, we've never seen Boss Baby.
I said I would watch it with a mutual friend of me and Tiago's, but then nobody else in our friend group ever wants to watch it, because why the fuck would you, right?
Yeah, why the fuck would I want to watch Boss Baby?
No, you're right. You're right.
This is fair.
How can I make this about Transformers?
So yes.
But I have seen Aladdin and I have seen Les Mis.
Yeah.
And when does he steal the bread?
When does he steal the bread? It's got to happen some point. One of these stories will have a character steal the bread. So,
nope,
yeah.
they're stealing life in this one.
Yeah. So Akechi is visited by the narrator. The narrator goes there, and we get like the introduction of Akechi living, in his apartment above. I forget if they say what his landlady does. I guess she's just like a
old lady,
an old lady who's renting out the upper,
it's like a shop
part
or
of her
something.
house.
It's some kind of store.
And he goes upstairs, and we get this vision of Akechi's like apartment just piled high with books, and he's like, yeah, I don't know, just sit down on a pile of books somewhere, whichever one seems the most most comfortable.
So Seki's apartment,
honestly, king shit.
Yeah. And yeah, so the narrator has to then explain, like, all right, I'm gonna work through my entire like thought process here, but Akechi, I think you might have been the murderer. And then after he explains his whole logic and reasoning spectacular, Akechi laughs at him and goes, yeah, no, it's not me. And then proceeds to explain the real result of the murderer.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. And then it's so funny because you can tell that this is like, at least to me anyway, this feels very much like a first story type resolution, because after Akechi lays out how this all worked out, supposedly, he goes, oh, look, and here's the newspaper. Look at this. And then there's the headline in the newspaper saying that the next door store owner turned himself in just as Akechi predicted, and admitted to the crime of murder. Because, I mean, I guess we can get into this because we talked a little bit about the...
It was an oopsie whoopsie during a fucky wucky.
Yeah, we talked about the salaciousness of it, but yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't read it along with us, you're here, you're fine with spoilers, I suppose.
Right. So yeah, the actual thing that happened here was this woman who was found, beaten to death, essentially. Strangled, inside the shop. The actual things that happened to her was the next door shop neighbor, and I've got to go back here with my explanation. The next door shop owner, he also has a wife who also had some bruises and marks on her as well. And people were like, damn, it's crazy that two women next door to each other both have these bruises and marks on them. Anyway, it's probably not a big deal. And so the shop owner has been having an affair, of course, with the other woman who was murdered.
Scandalous.
And of course, they were engaging in some, shall we say, unsafe BDSM practices.
Yeah, because you can't do this safely.
I guess like impact play is real. I hear you, but like
I'm just saying, there's safe ways to choke a girl out. Just throwing that.
Yeah, there absolutely. You're not. I know there is, but like, but we also have to consider the bruises and that stuff, and that makes me think that like she was just like, all right, now just wail on, just punch me, and it's like, are you? I don't know.
Hear some people are into that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's impact play. It's the I know people are into it, but like part of me is just like in the olden days, and everyone just be like, it's like how hard?
The fucking internet to be.
No one had a safe word.
No, they hadn't invented them yet.
They weren't invented yet. Dude, my first safe word, Akechi, Kokoro.
Jesus.
So yeah,
you gotta keep that one in the back pocket for someday.
The shop owner, unfortunately strangled her out, and it was just, he just tried to hide it because he was horrified by this horrible mistake. And so, so it feels like to me almost there's not a ton to delve into here in a way, because it kind of just ends.
I
we have so
agree.
much preamble and we have so much setup for it, and we have so much like just waiting around as the cops are doing their investigation, which doesn't really result in a whole lot. And like the stuff with the light switch is just waved away with it malfunctioned, right?
It like doesn't matter.
All right.
Like Akechi's just like, sometimes the lights don't work, and I'm like, well, okay, come on
fuck
here.
yourself. All right. So we had some confusion about which story we were reading first, right? Unfortunately, I read this one first. But I have a habit of doing things backwards occasionally, so this was
in your defense. Ben did post them backwards, so I got them backwards.
So in a way, if you'd posted them the correct direction, I would have done them backward. Is what I'm hearing, which is really funny. I read this story and I was like, man, this is him. This is fucking the detective. Like, I had some, like I said, some awareness of like, oh, he's this.
He like ruffles his hair, like.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that's fine, but like, okay, the story is just like, yeah, I talked to the guy and he told me everything because I'm so good at psychology, but you don't get to see it, and I'm like, I'll go fuck off. Okay.
Which is so funny given the second story that we read then, but we'll get to that.
Yeah,
and
I was like, oh my god, this is it? This is the guy?
I think the thing that I like the most.
I was kind of like, fuck this story, Even though the intro to it, I did kind of enjoy like the preamble a little bit. But I felt like it's interesting because he mentions Sherlock Holmes and Conan Doyle, and a bunch of other, like mystery writers. And in The Study in Scarlet, which we just did last time, one of Sherlock's criticisms is when the detectives like just know what other people are thinking magically. He always has a reason for it that's like based in facts or evidence, because that makes the reader feel better. Aside from just he thinks it's stupid because he's fucking Sherlock Holmes. And I definitely like was reading this and I was like, okay, yeah, I see where that criticism was coming through, because now I feel like that in the story that's referencing Sherlock Holmes. And I have the detective just telling me, oh, I figured it out, here's what everyone else was thinking, and I've solved it and it's in the newspaper. But I have no evidence. Yeah. But I'm right, because it's in the newspaper, And I was just kind of like,
the bit where
shake my fist.
Yeah, the bit where he says like that he talked to the next door shop owner, which again, I don't believe we ever get his name. So again, it's hard to talk about. But yeah, he just says like, oh yeah, I went to him and I talked to him and I asked him if he was, involved in any way. And he was kind of nervous, but he was like a little more defensive. But thanks to my powers of psychological deduction, I was able to suss out some.
I just asked him some questions that you couldn't possibly understand, you little fucking weirdo. Like, piss off, asshole. Anyways, so I got rationally angry, and then I calmed down.
It was a little hand wavy, right, in the way that it rationalized it. I will say I did have one note that I thought was kind of interesting, was that Akechi at one point mentions, he says, let's see here. That's I got to make sure I have it here. Oh, it's actually when the narrator and Akechi are talking, and it says here, I know that you've read Poe's The Murders in the Rue Morgue and LaRose The Mystery of the Yellow Room, and I'm sure that you know of that Rose Delacourt case in Paris. Even now, 100 years later, there are still mysteries surrounding that curious murder case. I'm recalling it now. Isn't the way the perpetrator of tonight's incident departed without leaving a trace somewhat similar? Said Akechi. That's true. It really is mysterious. It's often been said that the kind of serious crime you find in Western detective novels could never happen in a Japanese building. But I certainly don't think so, because of incidents just like this one, or such as this one. And what I wrote here in my note was that it's kind of interesting that they're noting that about the construction of Japanese homes, right? paper walls, sliding doors. It's like
lots
all
of
that stuff.
Windows you can peek in and out of.
Right. It makes locked room mysteries literally less likely to happen in Japanese culture than it is in Western culture and the types of buildings that they have. So
that's
that
something
was like
I also enjoyed for sure.
Yeah, I kind of liked that they were like keying in on that. Like, okay, Ronpo's read all these Western novels, and then he tries to do his own Japanese novel that is a short story that is like in that same vein, and he's like, oh, I'm literally running into physical problems with how buildings are built that make these less likely to happen. So I've got to come up with more complex or different ways for this mystery to have happened, right? Which is how we get to the bit with the shop owner skipping from the one room into the next one, like just through the bathroom door, and that kind of stuff, right? Like sliding through here, like, oh, the sliding door, I just opened it and went through to the bathroom, it's fine. But that's how he could have escaped and appeared like he, no one came through, right? So
no one went through the window or got on.
But
the
it was
roof.
just him. it was just the shop owner the whole time.
I mean, it's fun because it creates like obviously problems with that locked room idea, but also it gives your guy like a lot more escape options, So that's kind of fun. Not that I'm smart enough to be right in any of this shit, but still.
So yeah, that's kind of the first one here, but yeah, and then it ends with like a little bit of sexy salacious sadomasochistic references at the end there, like, oh yeah, they were choking each other out. Isn't that wild and wacky?
That's crazy.
Kind of
into that.
Yeah. And again, this is just stated as fact by Akechi, and it is not corroborated by the newspaper as far as I'm aware later.
Yeah, we just have to take him at his word
that he was able to psychologically deconstruct that from the bookshop owner's or the next door shop owner's testimony. So, and literally the final 2 sentences or 3 sentences are, just then the mistress of the tobacco shop. Oh, right, it was a tobacco shop that he lives above. There we go. The mistress of the tobacco shop brought in the evening paper. Akechi accepted it, examined the local news page, and before long let out a gentle sigh. Ah, it seems he was unable to bear it in the end, and he has turned himself in. It's an odd chance, isn't it, that we should receive news like this just as we are discussing the matter? I looked where he pointed. There, in just a small headline and 10 lines of type, it was noted that the proprietor of the soba shop had given himself up. There you go.
He paid her to stand outside the door until he was finished with his explanation.
Right.
And then she comes in with the newspaper.
For fucking sure, Dessy. He 100% did.
Yeah, he got to make that dramatic end happen.
Yeah. That's kind of fun, though.
So yeah, that's like I said, I don't know if there's really a whole lot else to discuss here for this one, but you start to see at least some of the building blocks of this character, and I think it's at least a little bit useful to know where he starts for then the second one, which I think the second story I think is significantly more interesting. As far as how it kind of plays out then. So did anybody else have any last thoughts about this one before we start talking about the psychological test?
I
don't think so.
Did think that for a split second, Akechi did it. Because, my man was speaking with confidence. He wouldn't lie to me.
Right.
I mean, I did like his reasoning. It was definitely the sort of thing that you'd come up with in an Ace Attorney case. You'd be like, oh, these 2 witnesses saw 2 different things because, oh, you were wearing stripes. And Akechi has...
Oh, yeah, and it was on the fucking pleated door or whatever.
Infuriatingly has
the lattice door.
Yeah, the most, like, reasonable explanation that I've been screaming at Ace Attorney this entire time, which is just, eyewitness testimony is so fucking unreliable, you can't believe this shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
Yeah, that
But
was
he
the
is
talk
right.
about that. They do talk about that in there too, about how they did something and a whole bunch of people were witness to it and they all said something different.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's all like totally a huge problem in real life. Like people put a lot of credibility on eyewitness testimony, and your brain is just not that good at things. I mean, it's really, really good at certain things, but
Right.
your brain's job is to like find patterns to make it easier to like do other stuff. And if you give it a pattern, like you saw this, it'll just run with that because that's easier.
It'll fill
Right.
in the blanks.
That's what it's
yeah.
for. It's doing its job. It's saving you from saber-toothed tigers.
Thanks, brain.
Not the
A
saber-toothed
little
tigers.
bit of that remembering something is just remembering the last time you remembered it.
Mhm.
So you're copying a copy of a copy, and you lose a little bit of the data each time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've
In a
photocopied
way.
a couple
You're
of
deep
things.
frying your JPEGs as we speak.
Oh my god, I am doing it.
I don't know how true that actually is. I assume
don't know
that's
if
just
that's
like
actually how it works.
guessing a little bit of how things actually work, but it does feel relatively true to how our memory works at times, because sometimes you just like, well, they had a red car. Yeah, I think so.
I thought it was a blue car.
Maybe it was.
I'm the kind of person who's not afraid to admit
car.
that I don't fucking know
Oh
what
my
the
God,
hell
yeah.
I saw.
Is it about the car?
Maybe I just saw a black and white striped car and I happened to see it in the car wash just as like the strips of cloth were going back and forth and waving back, and I just happened to see that it was only white at that moment.
Does that mean the car comes out with only the portion of it clean?
Oh man. So
Oh my god.
yeah. Alrighty. Well, yeah. The second story that we read then was the psychological test. This one is an inverted mystery, perhaps a how catch 'em, you might say. In that from the
A real Columbo.
Yeah, from the very first paragraph of this story, we know who the murderer is. It is Fukiya, who is a student that we are introduced to. It's told from an omniscient narrator perspective who's talking about Fukiya, and
a character known as Fukiya if you put it through a text to speech like I did listening to it at work.
Oh no, Dad.
Yeah, it doesn't have a very good Japanese pronunciation guidelines.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, this one, we are introduced to Fukiya, who is very good friends with another boy, who was,
His name was
Where's
like
my
Saito
notes?
or something.
Yeah, I was trying to pull it up here.
I hope I'm right.
Oh my goodness, where is it? Yeah.
I hope. Hold on, wait. Actually,
That sounds right.
Yes, Saito. Yes. you were
ah,
correct,
yes.
Yes. So yes, Fukiya and Saito.
Eyewitness testimony's unreliable, except for mine.
So
Rose
yes,
is the exception.
Saito rents a room from an old woman who is very wealthy. Her husband was like a politician or something like that and passed away, and now she's got this money and kind of doesn't know what to do with it, and just lives on her own and rents out a room in her house.
Couldn't be me.
To this student. And of course, Fukiya is very interested in some of her money and starts to like slowly piece together that she doesn't really need that money. I bet there's a way I could get a hold of that. And she's been hiding it in different places, kind of almost has like a rotation going on where she hides the money in different places throughout her house. And he finds out the most recent location, which is at the bottom of a potted tree. It's like a small tree in her house, so it's hidden underneath the dirt in the pot. And he hatches an elaborate plan to ensure that Saito is away for a while. Like, he finds out that he's going to be away for some school thing or whatever, and figures out when she's going to be home alone, and determines, like, yep, I can kill her, and then I can take the money, and I've got this whole plan for how I can get away with it. Because after he shows up to the house, and again, we are told all this in explicit detail. We are hearing this as it happens, much like a Columbo episode where you see the murder happen first.
Or something else, perhaps. Some sort of other, possibly video game based piece of media where you see the murder happen at the beginning of the thing.
At
maybe
the very beginning of the game.
Something, I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it.
And so he kills her, and then he goes to the pot, digs the money out from it, but only takes half of it, very intentionally, because it is a lot of money. So even half is quite a large sum. Takes the half of the money, and then walks away. Carefully walks out of the house, makes sure to cover his tracks and all that. Puts the tree back and all that, and walks out of that the house, and drops the money in a park, right? In I believe in a grate, a sewer grate, kind of off to the corner or something like that, or along the side of the park, and then goes and reports it to the police. Because the way that this lost items works here is that if you report, that you found lost money, after a certain period of time, it just goes back to the person who found it. So he believes that through his boldness of reporting this lost money that is, seemingly has no ties to this woman, because it's just money that was found out in the park, right?
Yeah, he goes out and buys a little purse very carefully.
Yep.
It's not a bad idea, if I'm honest.
Yeah, he's got a fairly good plot here, and reports it to the cops, and then he plans to just go pick that money up then after whatever it is, the 6 months or a year is up, and he just, will go get the money then. And so yeah, and at first the prosecutor comes out and starts investigating, and it seems like they can't figure out, what happened. They suspect Saito, most of all, because he's the one who's been living there. He's the one who knew about the money, in the first place. And so they are very, very suspicious of him and take him in.
And he did steal the other half of the money.
Well, yeah, that's the best part of it then, is that it's revealed that, yes, Saito actually went ahead and decided to take the money that was left behind and incriminated himself. So yeah, so all that happens, and Fukuya decides to pretend, feign desperate support for his friend, no, he never could have done that, that kind of thing. And the prosecutor who's investigating it, and he's like, I mean, it doesn't make sense that anybody else would have done it aside from this Saito kid, but I don't have definitive proof.
Also, I don't think it was him.
It's true that he also, in his gut, kind of just doesn't quite think that it was him. Doesn't fit the MO, because Saito is not very good at keeping a straight face or not being
Some
normal.
People crumble under pressure, and that's not their fault.
He's a very nervous, sweaty boy. Yeah. And then who would walk through the door but Akechi Kogoro? And so he offers to help the prosecutor out, and they start, kind of, I guess, looking at all the evidence and everything for the case. And I forget exactly what tips him off to it, but Akechi starts to suspect Fukuya again and brings him in for questioning. And oh no, I'm forgetting the whole thing before Akechi shows up. Is that the prosecutor
already under suspicion?
The prosecutor does his psychological test, because this is the important thing. This psychological test. The prosecutor is a psychologist as well, and he wants to do his big test, in which you respond to certain words of association, as quickly or slowly as possible, and you use that timing to determine guilt, right? and this is part of the reason why he does it to both Saito and Fukiya preps for it. He, prepares for the test to basically be like, well, if I behave like somebody who has, I have to answer in such a way that shows that I have nothing to do with this, right? And he carefully plans his answers, some of them in a way that have just like zero relation, but others in a way that have relation, but he answers calmly so that he throws suspicion off of himself. I will need to pull up the whole list of it because we get the whole grid, right?
Yeah.
The whole chart of every single word.
I love
and
to see
how
a
fast
table
they
in my
answer.
short stories.
It's really funny to just straight up see the table laid out with all the numbers and the words.
I like looking at graphs inside my novels.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Make me a graph, make me a chart, draw me a map, please. I'm literally begging
and so this
you.
Is, yeah. And so while this absolves Fukiya in the eyes of the prosecutor, it does not absolve him in the eyes of Akechi, because when Akechi shows up, he's like, these answers are too good, actually. These answers actually throw more suspicion on him. He answered too calmly, too rationally, and these almost sound like prepared answers. But he obviously cannot prove it, so they invite him to dinner, essentially. It's not actually dinner, but the prosecutor and Akechi invite Fukiya over to the prosecutor's house for like one last interview kind of thing. And I think they tease him by flattering him a little bit. They say like, oh, well, we're going to, you're so smart, kind of thing.
They come in and tell him that they don't think he did it. They think that Saito did it.
Yeah.
They just want him to clear up some details.
We're so sorry.
They start
you.
by putting him, making him feel like he's not in any danger.
Yeah, we were just doing our due diligence, that
right.
sort of shit.
Yeah. But of course, this is actually a trap, right? And he asks him some questions about this screen that the woman had in her home that was torn during the time of the murder. And I believe, let's see here. Yeah, Akechi turned to the district attorney. Now, I want to ask you a simple question, Mr. District Attorney. Just when was the screen brought into the house of the old woman? The day before the crime, on the 4th of last month. The day before the crime, did you say, Dr. Akechi? But that's very strange. Mr. Fukiya stated just a moment ago that he saw it 2 days before the crime was committed, which was the 3rd of last month. Furthermore, he was very positive as to where he had seen it, in the very room where the old woman was murdered. Now, this is all very contradictory. Surely one of the two of you must be mistaken. And so that is how he is caught finally. And then this is when Fukiya really Fukiya actually starts to break down, right? At this point. And starts to admit to a whole bunch of stuff and panic and freak out and that's kind of when they are able to arrest him. But yeah, so there's a lot more fun stuff going on here. One, I think it's fun to see most of the story from Fukiya's perspective and him preparing all the details of the crime and the murder, and then preparing for the psychological test, and then him walking face first into this trap that they set up for him at the end.
I like this one a lot more. I think that's sort of the general consensus, maybe, but the procurement of evidence is everything. The procurement of his signed and sworn statement that he saw the screen in there before it was there.
Mm-hmm.
That's so fun. That's like a classic Ace Attorney gotcha moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt very satisfying, as opposed to the previous story where you just sort of were like, we have to take your word for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this one was written later. I think it's better written. I think that it was a fun story. I liked reading it very much.
This was one that Shu Takumi mentioned specifically as being one that inspired him.
Mm-hmm.
And did anybody else notice the fact that this story had one element literally that was directly lifted for game 1?
Yeah.
With the receipt?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes. This is just Mia Fey's expensive lamp.
This is just Mia Fey's lamp. This is the...
We love Mia Fey's expensive
lamp. Mia Fey's stupid expensive lamp with the receipt that she left behind that Phoenix uses as evidence to catch Red White. That's literally exactly what is done here with the receipt that they finally used for proof when that screen was bought and put in that room to prove that Fukuya knew about it, in advance and was there on the day of the murder, right?
You promised that you saw this thing you had no chance of seeing unless you were there to kill, to murder.
So yeah, it was fun to see that and be like, oh yeah, well, I mean, Takumi admitted to this, that he just occasionally would lift stuff from older stories that he read. And so, yep, no, he just took that straight from here.
It's fine if you dress it up different. There's nothing new under the sun.
Exactly. No, I'm not I'm not saying this in a bad way. I'm just saying it's fun to see the little pieces of the puzzle that eventually form the whole. And this also has, again, something that, like, the structure I think is really satisfying because you get to see Fukuya's arrogance, right? And then have it the rug pulled out from under him at the end.
He also literally has like an Ace Attorney breakdown at the end. He literally, there's like a comment where he's like, he
starts to
someone
like
with only the kind of face who would cry. Yeah. Simply just signs away the fact that, he admits to everything once defeated in a game of mental chess.
Yeah.
Logic chess, perhaps one might say.
Logic chess, someone might say.
Someone else, not me. Logic chess would be a silly idea. Who would do that?
But yeah, there were a lot of fun lines in this one. I highlighted a lot of bits in this one because this one really had some I don't know. I felt the writing stood out to me a lot more as being particularly entertaining. Like when Saito starts talking near the beginning to Fukuya about like, oh, can you guess where she's heard it? Where she's hidden her money this time? Can you guess? Can you even guess? Oh boy, it's so original. Can you guess? And suppressing his excitement with an actor's finesse, Fukuya yawned and blandly remarked, "I'm afraid I couldn't even make a guess."
I could never.
Saito was easily caught in the artful trap. Well then, I'll tell you, he said quickly.
I like this too because I feel like this is a short story that would definitely affect like a bunch of like high school students in Japan who had to read it for like a summer assignment. Like,
right.
We all have one like murder mystery short story that you read in high school that has altered your brain chemistry forever.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like a regional thing. I know what mine was. So, oh shit, I have an idea for something we should read for the podcast.
Alrighty, add it to the Google Doc.
Okay, haha.
Yeah. I'm trying to think here. I see some of my other notes here. I don't know if anybody had any other bits that they wanted to bring up that they really, really liked here. I liked that immediately after doing this murder, the story points out that he had sound and untroubled sleep.
Yeah.
He slept like a baby after killing that woman.
I think the thing about it is
just to drive it home that this guy's a freak.
He was totally fine with it. He's been waiting his entire life for this opportunity.
I think the thing that sticks out to me in particular about the story is the fact that, like, the exact thing that even gets him on the fucking radar was his over-planning, because he thought to himself, well, if I report the money is lost instead of hiding it in my own apartment, then it will not have as much suspicion, because of course I find money, the first thing I do is report it. I don't have to go through the fact of hiding it. But he gets caught because the prosecutor just happens to see that this dude reported a large sum of cash. And it is his own over preparation that gets him caught.
And the short story is even like, he probably just should have done it like, you know, a little further away.
Yeah, he straight up goes like,
you can be too prepared.
Yeah, he was like, damn it, I should have gone to a different police station to report the money.
Just go to the next police station over. It's not hard.
Yeah, good stuff.
I like when he was doing his prep for the psychological test. He was really annoyed that when he was asking himself the questions, he wasn't surprised by them. He's like, damn it, I don't get surprised when I ask the questions to myself. I gotta figure out a way to unsettle myself so I can practice, fighting against being surprised.
It's crazy
really
that
psychopathic behavior. Good for him.
Yeah, this guy's trying to beat like a Death Note game without anyone else playing the Death Note game.
There was definitely a bit of Death Note vibes going on here. I feel like, this
guy would 100% be like, I can be Kira. Actually, he would be worse, probably.
Oh, yeah, 100%. He'd be like, why didn't I just kill the guy at the next police station?
Yeah. This guy would skip the part where he was like, I'm trying to do good in the world, and jump straight to, I'm the bad guy.
It's kind of incredible that, apologies.
Rein it in.
I forgive you for everything.
I'm sleepy. I've been waking up at like 6 a.m. every day.
I'm so sorry.
Me too.
I didn't know this is... Okay, we'll get off my fucking back. I didn't know this was going to be Kagura Akechi showing up. He's a doctor now. He had a whole arc that I didn't get to see.
He's successful now.
Yeah, he's a doctor.
He was a fucking bum the last time I saw him.
Yeah, because this is from a short story collection, right? That we read this one out of, and this also has the human chair, which is a horror story that
sounds like a fucking horror story.
I think I know that one.
I should read that one.
Yeah, reason you might know the human chair is because Ito did this.
Junji?
Junji Ito
our guy
adapted
Junji?
this. Yeah, he adapted this into manga form about a guy who sews himself into a chair so that he can feel people sit on him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, there's a little bit of Ronpo's horror leanings like coming out in some of these stories, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that is also like another genre that he dabbled in addition to these detective stories and mystery stories. But
he's clearly more famous. Psych, the TV
Yep.
I think okay.
Bring him back quick,
I think we
just to show him that.
What was it? I said that like if I ever could bring a celebrity back, I think I would want to bring Vincent Price back so I could show him Hundreds of Beavers.
Interesting choice. I do love it.
Yeah.
What a good movie.
Yeah, pick a celebrity to bring back to life to show him a single movie.
Figure out how we can get Hundreds of Beavers to relate to Ace Attorney, please. So we can watch Hundreds of Beavers.
So we can watch it for the show.
Everybody just go watch Hundreds of Beavers.
Go watch Hundreds of Beavers.
We can do that.
Look up Hundreds of Beavers.
It's free on
watch
YouTube.
Hundreds of Beavers.
It's free. I literally I showed my parents Hundreds of Beavers, and my dad was like, "That's too silly." And then like literally my mom laughed so hard we had to like airlift her out of the movie theater seat. And then my dad was like, "It's too silly. That was silly." And then at like Thanksgiving, he kept trying to put it on all the TVs. And I was like, "Yes, I win."
So it still impacted him.
Actually, he loved it. He was just being silly.
Yeah, of course.
He himself was being silly.
My dad is very silly, but it's very hard to tell when he's being silly, and therein lies the problem. He used to tell us that we were having rocks for dinner, and my sister and I would cry because we were extremely gullible, and also he was extremely convincing.
I thought you were having rocks for dinner.
Yeah. Totally reasonable, right?
What the
I
hell?
thought so too,
fucking
apparently.
Gorons over here.
Hey, don't judge
Sorry,
the
Dad.
Gorons.
I love Gorons. Listen, some of my best friends are Gorons.
I'm gonna bite you. I'm gonna bite you. I'm gonna bite you. I'm gonna bite you.
Oh, I'm so glad that these short stories about murder have really affected us in a positive way.
I'm going to. Oh yeah, true. I guess I honestly do think at this point maybe I could get away with the murder.
Yeah, I
think
wouldn't
you've
make
learned
any
enough?
mistakes. I would be great.
Yeah, I simply.
I would pass the psychological test.
I would not be as arrogant as Fukiya.
Yeah,
I would.
great murderer theory.
Yep.
Oh my
Hell
fucking
yeah,
god!
Man.
dude.
I mean, I don't know. Did anybody else? Did the second that Akechi did his first one more thing? Did anybody else like hoot and holler? Like,
Yeah, he absolutely did a
animal.
Columbo. I saw that.
I wasn't hooting
Yeah,
and hollering, but I did heh lightly on the bus.
Yeah, what was it? Dr. Akechi, however, suddenly interrupted. "One moment, please," he said to Fukiya. "There's just one trivial question I'd like to ask you before you leave." It's like that's a one more thing right there. That's just a one more thing. You got him. And I think there was a second one later where then later rising from his seat with the air of a professor leaving his class following a lengthy lecture, Dr. Akechi put on his hat, then paused briefly for a final statement. "Just one more thing I would like to mention," he said with a smile. There you go.
He said the
put
line.
2 on the board for our count. So, yeah, it was. I think the fact that the build up was pretty lengthy. You know, I mean, obviously this isn't a long story; it's a short story still.
Mhm.
But you have a nice, build up to it, and then the denouement is just fun. It's just fun when it's a good catch 'em, a good gotcha to catch Fukiya in. But yes, I wanted to bring this up earlier, and I think Rose, you caught on to what I was pointing at earlier. So in the first story, Akechi Kogoro talks about how he's such an expert at psychological evaluation of people. And
He's
then
a people
here,
studier.
when the professor here does his or the prosecutor, does his psychological test, Akechi comes in and he goes, "Can't count on that for shit, doc." You got to actually catch him with evidence here. For some reason, that just really made me laugh to have like this almost complete 180. It's not that he's not using any psychology at all, but it was just really funny that he was like, "Well, you did this whole test, like testing like his reaction time and everything, and that's not enough, to get him." And in the first story, he was like, "Oh yeah, I was talking to him, and I heard the way he answered things, and I knew instinctively that he was lying."
Yeah, it worked out for you one time, asshole. But now you know.
I'm curious if we get some other stories in here, if there'd be a gradual change, or if that was just something for the first story and that was it.
Yeah, he got better really fast. Yeah, because just like in real life, like lie detectors, hot garbage, absolute bullshit.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Again, a lot of this is stuff we talked about in previous cases. Although we've never had to deal with a lie detector. But I guess because we have like the fucking X-Men with like Apollo and Athena later on, we're able to just skip that shit. Like, oh, 'cause she can just tell if you're lying.
Right.
She can hear it. Which
Like
again,
Daredevil.
The waiver.
yeah, like the fucking bullshit, but whatever. For her, I'll allow it.
Right.
Yeah, go like fucking God forbid women do anything, etc., etc. Back to our original jokes.
Yeah. Yeah. I also noted here a line again. If you want to like pull at every thread and do Boss Baby left and right, suddenly
I told you to change that.
Suddenly, Dr. Akechi pointed with an accusing finger at the student and demanded sharply. Again, just We've got district attorneys, we've got prosecutors, we've got pointing.
Damn,
we've got
even
catching
pointing.
peoples in contradictions. Like, it's all here, right? Like, I can see how this made a deep impact on a younger Shu Takumi. And even if it wasn't intentional, like, the imprints were left there forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun.
I like this one quite a bit. I was excited. You know, I read half of it on my way into work, and I was like, I'm so excited to. Oh, that's
wow. That was
woof,
clear.
Woof. Hey, come here, jerk face. You're on the podcast now.
Yep.
This is Roxy's first appearance on the podcast.
I don't think it is.
Definitely her first appearance.
Yeah, nobody's ever heard her bark before. She's now here. Oh, she's going away. She's being taken away to puppy prison. There she goes. Everybody say bye.
Go to hell.
Bye.
Bye.
Roxy, Tiago says go to hell. She's gone. All right. So she had an opinion there, and now I forget what I was saying.
You said you read half on the
and I was excited to like get back to it. So definitely a really fun story. I super enjoyed this one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This one felt like if it had just a few like minor things tweaked, that I would have been reading somebody writing out an Ace Attorney case, right? Basically. So yeah, this was only like this is like came out the same year, I think, roughly, or maybe a year later from the first story that we read. So it's really not that far apart. And already I felt like, oh, there's a big jump in quality here. Like that first one was, it was fine. But this one was like, oh, this one kicks ass. Good job. Good job, Mr. Edogawa Ranpo, one of the most influential mystery writers of all time.
Hey, this guy might be good at
work.
writing.
I think you improved in a year.
Wow.
Maybe we should keep an eye on him. He really improved real quick. Maybe he could do some
I think this guy's going places.
Yeah.
He's got legs.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, yeah. Did anyone else have any other thoughts about these two stories that we read before we wrap up here?
I can see the Ace Attorney in them.
I wonder what his horror stuff is like. Because, like...
horror.
I mean, like I said, the only thing that I've read of his was Junji Ito's adaptation of The Human Chair.
You read that shit,
That's
you sicko?
Junji Ito's cool.
That's fucked up.
You love horror.
I know, that's the joke.
Horror.
Well, I don't know if listeners know.
So that's the only thing I'm really familiar with. And so, yeah, now, I am also curious how like hard he likes to lean into the creepy stuff. But
I wonder if any more of them have BDSM.
Probably, given what we've seen so far.
Yippee!
So yeah, we will probably I've got some other Ranpo on the list for the future. Some possible other stories featuring Kogoro Akechi in the future, but for now that was our first dip into the pool of his stories. And we'll keep on plugging here with some other stuff. I would bring up my Takumi touchstone here, but we kind of already hit them all. Because this one had a lot more straight out of the box that resonated with our previous Ace Attorney history. So I think that'll do it for us this week, folks. You can keep up with the show via our website, updatedautopsy.report. That'll let you stay up to date on everything we do, get you links to all of our social media accounts, and we also have a YouTube channel, which features Let's Plays and other fun videos at youtube.com/@Yotsuben. You can follow me on all social media at Yotsuben. Dessy, where can people find you?
Perusing the Transformers forums. Or I'm Dessy on Blue Sky.
And Tiago?
You can find me as at Tiago S. Dutra on various social medias, up to and including Blue Sky.
And Rose.
You can find me at Rose Nonsense on mostly Blue Sky, but some other places as well. I'm just really sort of not on there otherwise. And let's see. I don't even remember where I was last week. Where am I this week? I'm outside. The weather's getting nicer. Just come outside.
It got fucking cold again here.
It's well, we didn't get that 80-degree day that y'all got, so I'm outside.
It's
You can come find me.
70.
I'm getting accosted by turkeys and geese, and all of the birds are coming for me. And I'm living in Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. That being said, I'm going to fight them all, so I will see you out there.
If you see a turkey on the street, cross.
Literally, I saw a fucking
Get
turkey.
to the other side.
There were
said
two
Tiago.
tom turkeys fighting in the street, and the cars were all stuck, and then I trying to cross the street, and then there was turkeys menacing this young lady who's trying to get into her car, and they were blocking her from her parked car, and so me and this other guy just like ran across the road and just like booked it out of there. I'm going through it right now. It's the fucking Wild West out here, but it's just turkeys.
The Wild East.
Why did you turn into like Ralph Wiggum there, telling his parents about seeing Principal Skinner kissing in the closet, and then the babies looked at him, and then they looked at me?
It's been a really long day. I had a 44-minute phone call at work today.
Oh, man.
44 minutes. I almost broke the record for longest phone call.
Oh man,
I'm dying, Squirtle. Anyways, so yeah, just I go outside. If there's birds, I'm probably there.
Oh my god! That Ralph Wiggum bit really fucking got me.
Oh god, it's not my fucking fault. My mouth is different now.
Your mouth.
The dentist came and they moved all my teeth.
Oh yeah, that's right. They took your teeth. They took all
my teeth away.
damn!
That's not what happened. I'm okay. I promise I'm fine.
All of your teeth are accused of murder, and you have to defend them in court.
Just a couple of them.
They're all in jail right now.
They did it?
Yeah, well, it's attempted murder. I'm fine. Everything's fine. My teeth are okay. They just had to move them around a little bit.
Imagine going up to...
It's just like a shuffle.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Musical chairs.
Hey, you guys, stop fighting. Go sit over in the corner, and you go sit over in that corner.
My client should go straight to fucking jail.
I'm having a weird time right now.
we all are, and that's okay.
Listen, yeah. We're recording this. I don't mind disclosing this.
Yeah.
We're recording this on April 2nd, which is the day that Nintendo revealed all the details for the Switch 2.
And after April Fool's Day.
Shit.
The day after April Fool's. And also, just go ahead and Google just like what's kind of happening in the world, and you'll kind of get the idea for why everybody's feeling a little loosey-goosey.
Messaging me saying Bloodborne 2, and then they were like, never mind. And
Never mind.
That's how my day has been, and so it's not my fault that I'm absolutely psychotic.
That's actually a really funny fucking response, is simply never mind.
It's fine. I'm fine. I didn't think it was going to happen anyway, so what have I got to lose, right?
Right. Exactly.
Where
I'm fine
am I?
about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, everybody. We hope you'll rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. Next time, here we go, folks. We said his name like 3 times this podcast. We will be discussing one of the first Columbo episodes.
Oh, shit.
Murder by the Book.
On God?
Oh, we love Columbo.
Our boy. We're going to do it next time. So watch along, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye. Hey. What's going on?
I stopped.
All right.
Okay.
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 Bye.